If you've been a student of mine for a long time, then you know how much I hate the phrase entry fragger. The idea that you're waiting your entire fight or delaying it to wait for your quote unquote entry fragger, the person who does a lot of damage, to do a lot of damage first is a little ridiculous to me. And also, it pushes this idea of an entry fragger, somebody who goes in, does a bunch of damage, and that's their only value. It creates a lot of issues long term. It also pushes this idea of trading, which is really unnecessary for fights. A lot of people who identify themselves as entry fraggers come to me, they're like, man, I do a lot of damage, but I keep hitting this wall and I can't get past it, and I don't become a more valuable player outside of just entry fragging, quote unquote. And one of the issues with that is this idea that you should go in and trade, maybe knock one person, knock somebody else, and then wait for your team to clean up the rest. It's just a terrible view of defaulting to fights. So how does this relate to what I want to talk about today? Basically, I wanted to talk about the differences between skills, roles, and responsibilities. One of the biggest mistakes that I often see is that people equate skills with roles, or they mix them up. Fragging is not a role. There is no one certain fragger on the team. It is a skill. And as you progress through the competitive levels, as you improve and as your competition improves, your roles and your responsibilities become more like skills and they become more fluid. So the idea of fragging as the sole role is inflexible and it doesn't work at a high level, especially because your roles change a lot. The lobbies change, your enemies change, the map changes. There are too many variables that change, especially in the same game. So a skill is not the same thing as a role. Those two things are very, very different. Everybody should be able to anchor. Everybody should be able to tell each other what to do, which is not the sole responsibility of the IGL. Everybody should be able to come up with macro plays and fighting plays, to be honest with you. Those are all skills. And the more you partition those skills into roles as fixed things, the more limited that your team is going to be. And you're going to be doing a lot of pointing and blaming to each other. You say, well, no, you're supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do that. And in certain situations that might be true, but overall it isn't. When it comes to responsibilities, I try to think of things in terms of team responsibilities. Everybody should be able to contribute to the plan. Everybody should be able to frag. Those kinds of responsibilities change as well, depending on the legend comp. Try to identify if you are internalizing a skill with a role, and that's not the same thing. Right? It reminds me of children who are told that they're good at art at a young age. Like drawing is a skill, but then it becomes their identity for the rest of their life. They're like, oh, I am an artist now. It doesn't mean that you're going to be an artist and that's the only thing that you're going to be. Don't limit yourself to that. Outside of Apex, I really, really respect polymaths, people who are good at a lot of things because they're interested in a lot of things. And those people tend to be more valuable both in the workforce and, just to humanity in general. They're just really, really interesting because they don't limit themselves and they're interested in a lot of things and they get good at a lot of things. So if you really want to compete at a high level, don't conflate skills with roles, and roles and skills are interchangeable, especially at a high level, and try to recognize that. Have conversations about that instead of just pointing the blame and saying that's your responsibility. And then also try to identify the differences between player responsibility and team responsibility. Every time you say, oh, this is my responsibility versus this is your responsibility, it's almost always going to be a team responsibility. That's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts for the day. Hope that helps.